Thanks very much for joining, everyone. My name is Virginia Petrou, and I'm the Global Marketing Director for BSO. So today on this panel, we will be taking you through the investment landscape in Brazil, and we will be giving you some tips and advice on how to leverage low latency and brokerage solutions to get the most impact out of your investments. I'm really pleased to be joined by subject matter experts from B3, Nova, Futura, and BSO. So I'm going to hand over to them each to introduce themselves because they'll do themselves much more credit than I'll ever be able to. So I'm going to start with Olivia. Olivia, could you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Virginia. I'm Olivia Maisel. I'm based in B3's London office and part of our international business development team. As well as a team based in Sao Paulo, we have international offices all over the world to cater to our international investors. So as well as London, we have Singapore, Shanghai, and Chicago. From London, we cover all of the European-based clients and support them with their trading experience at B3, as well as help new firms understand the market dynamics and opportunities trading B3 and guide them through their full onboarding process to the exchange. And I'm based in London with Claudio.
Thanks very much, Olivia. Claudio, over to you.
Hi, I'm Claudio. I work here at the London office along with Olivia. It's a big pleasure being here with you to promote the Brazilian market. And I appreciate and thank BSO for the opportunity of speaking with your clients. And I hope the future and the current clients of B3 to trade in Brazil.
Thanks very much. Claudio, Andre, over to you.
Thank you, Virginia, and everybody that is present here. Great audience, by the way. It's a pleasure to help push this event and talk about Brazil as well. I am Andre Schierz. I'm based in São Paulo, working for Nova Futura, one of the biggest independent brokers here in Brazil for B3 markets. And I'm the international investors and HFT specialist for Nova Futura. So exactly what you guys need to invest in Brazil, that's what we're trying to bring here.
Lovely plug there, Andre. Over to you, David.
Hi, thank you, Virginia. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Moring. I've been working here in Brazil, based in Brazil, with BSO since last year. In fact, BSO opened a new company here in the middle of last year, BSO Brazil Telecom. And what I'd like to bring to the discussion today is what's happening in the local market, particularly with infrastructure, which of course is what BSO relies on to bring its market-leading low latency solutions to financial customers who wish to trade on Brazilian market. And over to my colleague, Tony Jones.
Thanks, David, and hello, everyone. My name is Tony Jones, and I'm the head of low latency strategy at BSO. I'm based in London, and a very high-level intro to BSO. We're a specialized provider of low latency networks, particularly supporting the finance sector. So, as the panel have already said, many thanks for attending this call, and we look forward to sharing some information with you.
Thanks very much, Tony. So we're going to get started. Claudio, let's go to you. Could you please provide an overview of the current investment landscape in Brazil?
Yeah, thank you, Virginia. I will try to, I would say, summarize. Otherwise, I would kidnap the whole meeting here. So that's not the idea. But I would like to point to the main things that are, I would say, driving the momentum of the country that we are, I would say, are going to have impacts, not just for international investments, but also for local investments. The first thing is rates in Brazil have started to slow down. So our central bank is like in a kind of, it's hard to say it's a dovish movement because interest rates are still over than 11%, but the trajectory is to move down, and hopefully some expectations are to go to 1 digit in maybe end of this year or beginning next year. our rates are around 11%. Inflation has been well managed, is around 4%. So real rates are still very high. So there is a big room for the central bank to lower rates. And this rate lowering has started at the beginning of last year when the new government took over, and not beginning, maybe mid last year. Okay, what are the implications that we are going to have? And likewise, we had an experience in other situations in terms of cycles. Retail that usually invests in fixed income, and Brazil is a very good country with a very sophisticated financial market, with very easy access for retail of any size to access financial products. So it's very democratic. So you have retail participating directly in the exchange and in having access to government bonds very easily, and to other financial products. So the financial market for retail in Brazil is very, I would say, open. Considering this, rates have a big impact, interest rates. So the new flows or the money that is in investment funds or some securities, etc., they can move quite easily from one pot to the other pot. So just for this standpoint, we have good expectations that when rates go to single digit, we are going to have more flow going to exchange, or more, I would say, risky products rather than the floating rate that usually the retail plays in Brazil. So this has a big impact on the financial market and the liquidity of the exchange. Also, with the buy side, that is another aspect that we have very strong in Brazil. I would say that differentiate us from other markets, mostly emerging markets. It's a big industry of buy side firms. Okay, so the buy side industry is over than $1 trillion USD AUM, and a good portion of this are considered the hedge funds. In Brazil, we name this fundos de mercado. Okay, multi-mercado, actually, multi-market funds. That is a Brazilian version of hedge fund that are very active in all exchange products in Brazil and overseas, derivatives, etc., commodities, FX, rates, etc. In terms of perspectives, I would say that's not. I'm not like a design economist, although I am economist. But the main point in Brazil is regarding the fiscal area that has been dominating the agenda, and the government seems to be very tight, very sticky to deliver the fiscal balance to the country. Then this is probably are going to have like consequences and GDP growth, investments, etc. So I would say the country is in the right path overall. And then we have all tools to develop the financial market and receive more flow from international clients.
That's great. Thank you very much, Claudio. Thank you for that overview. Olivia, is there anything you want to add with regards to what makes Brazil an attractive destination?
Sure. I think obviously the number one thing would be liquidity. So B3 is home to some of the most liquid contracts in the world. For example, the most traded equity index future in the world is our mini Ibovespa future, which is our flagship contract. And that's trading about 15 million contracts every single day. But in the past, we've seen that reach peaks of 25, 26, 27 million contracts traded on a daily basis. And we're also home to some of the most traded interest rate futures and single stock option contracts, namely Petrou and Vale, the Brazilian companies. They're among the most traded globally, and they're housed at B3. And another thing I would think would be worth mentioning would be we have a comprehensive set of market maker or fee incentive schedules at B3. For the most liquid contracts, we have sort of differentiated fee schedules. They're not necessarily market making programs, but they're a lower fee based on trading volumes and activity. But for our market making programs, accredited market makers typically pay no exchange fees. And some programs, in addition to fee exemption, actually offer additional remuneration or stipend as well for the less liquid products. I think another feature, Claudio touched on it already, but another feature that's definitely attracting investors to Brazil is the diversity and the sophistication of the participants. Maybe just to mention some numbers in terms of retail growth. In 2019, we had something like 700,000 retail participants trading on the exchange. Today, we're over 5 million. And these are active participants. So for the mini Bovespa contract that I mentioned earlier, we have 200,000 retail investors trading that on a daily basis. For options, we're looking at about 75,000 trading on a monthly basis, which is still, considerable retail flow. And maybe actually just one more final point. Despite bureaucracy, I would say Brazil is relatively friendly access for international investors. I think maybe Andre will talk about this in more detail, but as international investors can't be considered members of the exchange, even if they're market making on the exchange, the setup for them is relatively quick and pain-free, and they can be live and trading within a couple of months. So I would say those are among the main things that are attracting investors to B3.
Thanks very much, Olivia. And let's segue straight into Andre. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that? Andre, I think you're on mute.
Unmute, sorry. So Olivia, thank you for that. I mean, those are very good points, but the fact that Brazil is in between US and Europe in terms of time zone, that makes it easy for anyone that's trading either one market or the other to trade Brazil as well. So we're not that far east or anything that odd. So it's kind of comfortable trading times, right? We have a clear and stable set of rules for investment from foreigners. Right, we're tax exempt for most of jurisdictions. So if you're not on a tax haven, that is an added benefit, I would say. As Olivia already mentioned, there's a good retail participation. Some of products can have about 25% of the market share done from retails. There are lots of foreigners here, so this is not something new to Brazil. This is something that we've been doing and growing for several years now. Some of the products can reach about 50% of international investors trading. So there is a big diversity of participants, be that local funds, local banks, local retail community, international investors of all sorts, banks, hedge funds, portfolio managers, HFT firms, market makers. And on top of all that, as Claudio was mentioning in the beginning of the presentation here, B3 has a very big and complete portfolio of products. You can trade cash equities, local bonds, futures of FX, interest rates, commodities. So every market that probably out there could be traded here on the diverse, on different times, right? Or on different moments of the economy. And on top of all that, it's one exchange, one API to trade all those markets. So it's quite easy to connect, right? So I guess that it's a whole environment that is welcoming for foreigners to trade here.
Great, thank you so much, Andre. So let's move into regulation. When it comes to regulation in Brazil, what impact does it have on foreign investment, and what should investors be mindful of? So let's start that off with Claudio, please.
I would say the Brazilian market is very open for international flow. We have very, I would say, transparent and I would say safeguard rules for investing in Brazil, that as one topic. The other things is the financial market in Brazil is very, I would say, super monitored and safe in terms of execution, best price. We also have a structure that differentiate us from other markets where all holdings and positions are not mingled at the broker level. What I mean is every investor has its own position on its own name. So one situation or problem that can happen with one investor will not contaminate the other from the same broker or the same entity. So this in normal times usually doesn't make any difference. But when you have a crisis, likewise we had in the 2008, or maybe when there is a big bankruptcy, etc. This is a big value and puts a lot of confidence in the system and in the exchange. In terms of evolution of the regulatory system, we had some few changes in the last few years. One is the possibility of trading cash equities in blocks. That was something new that came last November. And summarizing is the possibility of doing in a dark environment blocks that are elected by the regulator. I'm not gonna go deeper here, but in Brazil, everything for cash equities should be traded in an exchange, and then there is no internalization, no block trading facility, etc. And since November, the regulator opened the possibility of having some block trading alternatives that would facilitate the execution of large portions of shares. The other thing is a regulation that made easier for international retail to connect in Brazil via broker. And then they don't need to have a kind of a custodian, a local custodian. They can use the broker, and that turns it much cheaper to trade in Brazil. And that can be for any product. I would say these are the main regulatory news we have, and the regulatory structure is very deep in Brazil and is taking very seriously in terms of avoiding problems, right?
Thanks very much, Claudio. Andre, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I guess our as Claudio well mentioned before, our regulation is ICVM 4373. That's the technical name of it. It's here for more than 10 years now. It's been evolving over the past 20 years plus. So securities are held in Brazil that are in Brazil are fully segregated, right? It's a final beneficiary owner market. Meaning the exchange and the regulators know and have full visibility for everything that's traded and do have active monitoring on basic market manipulation like spoofing, layering, and all that. It's easy to invest. Though there is a regulation, you have to have a local custodian and a broker to do the execution and clearing, but the onboarding is fairly similar to what you have in the US. You have to show information documents and all that. One detail that normally picks up some is that you have to translate your formation documents into Portuguese language. We can help with all that, and so with custodian as well. We have very good translators working for this. As I said earlier, there's a taxation free for countries that are not in a tax-heavy jurisdiction. And there are many global custodians that are here already. So with that said, that's a bit of the legal aspect on how to be onboarded in Brazil, what you'd have to have. We can guide you through the whole step if that's of interest, right? So I guess that's pretty it.
Thanks, Andre. And then last but not least, David, was there anything that you wanted to add with regards to regulation?
Yes, thanks, Virginia. I'd just like to add that because BSO has a company here, we have a license So we are affected to some extent by regulation, but what I do keep track of are things like the progress in crypto regulation, and also reductions in import duties. The authorities are quite incentivized to grow the infrastructure in Brazil. So a lot of networking items have had their duties reduced. So that is something that doesn't just affect BSO, it affects our customers. Anything that would potentially have an impact on services that we can offer, I do keep track of, because generally speaking, things are moving quite fast. The infrastructure market here in Brazil is, I wouldn't say it's booming exactly, but it's growing at a fair old pace. It's been booming for the last 5 years, I would say.
Thank you, David. So now let's move on to the topic of low latency. Tony, can you take us through how low latency can play a crucial role in enhancing investment strategies?
Yeah, absolutely, Virginia. And I'm obviously conscious of time, so I'll be succinct where I can. So I believe it's clear that low latency does play a crucial role in investment strategies. I guess particularly in the high frequency and algo trading space. And for me, those traders that can access and process transactions and market data faster will always gain the edge over their competitors, and I guess in turn generate superior values. And if we break that down, I guess, into its component parts, or some of its component parts, you have speed of execution is improved, the ability to arbitrage opportunities, there's market access, risk management, especially during those sort of volatile market conditions. And then there's things like alpha generation and reduced price slippage. So a number of areas that low latency plays a significant part. And it's obviously very clear that that the market drives the low latency space, and the low latency space drives the market. So yeah, absolutely, Virginia.
Thanks very much, Tony. And David, in your experience, are there any examples that you can share of how cutting-edge latency solutions have actually benefited investors?
Yes, I can. In fact, there is one particular example that comes to mind, but at a high level, it's worth pointing out that because of the innovations in routes that BSO has been able to implement over the last few months, in particular the new overland route, so coming out of B3 to get to either Europe or US, we no longer take it via subsea cable. We're going overland to Fortaleza on the northeast coast, which is becoming one of the biggest hubs in the world now for submarine cables. And because of that, from a Western European market, for example, so London, Amsterdam, and possibly even Frankfurt, B3 is now closer than the major AP markets. And that's principally due to our partnership with Elelink, who laid the first cable direct from the coast of Portugal to Fortaleza and on Sao Paulo. Additionally, one of the other consequences of that is B3 to CME in Chicago, for example, and B3 to LD4, which is the major data center in London for financial markets. They're almost at the same latency. So in other words, B3 has become significantly closer to other markets than it was in preceding years. Now, one of our long-standing customers down here, one of the first we actually connected, going back 2 or even close to 3 years now, a large financial organization in Europe. They were originally on a subsea cable all the way down to the coast of Sao Paulo, and then back up the short distance from there to B3. With our new overland link, as I said, instead of going out via the beach in Sao Paulo, it goes all the way up to the beach in Fortaleza. As a result of that, we were able to chop almost 10 seconds off their round trip delay time, which in these markets is a huge improvement. So that's just an indication of how, the way in which BSO is continually looking for better routes, innovations in the technology used to take traffic over those routes can have significant benefits for customers.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's very impressive. 10 seconds is almost like an insider trading if you look at it.
10
So
milliseconds,
on
10 milliseconds.
milliseconds, right? Okay. Still. Okay, so looking into brokerage solutions, Andre, what features or tools should investors look at when working out what brokerage solutions they should be using to navigate B3?
I guess one of the most important things is someone that has good level on market knowledge here on the local landscape. What are the products that one can trade? How can the broker support your research, right, with historical market data, providing you good reading of how the infrastructure works. So, and all the onboarding process as well, right? So you have to have, there's several things that you have to be connected, like I said, on the custodian level, on the regulation side. So how you get the legal infrastructure, all right, how you get the technology infrastructure in good shape and good performance. As Tony said, latency has been a thing in Brazil as well, and you have to know all those layers if you want to perform well in Brazil. Not to mention a good back office, stable technology, and a good company that can support all that. So, and that's what we're providing here. That's what we bring to the table.
Thank you very much, Andre. Olivia, what notable trends in the Brazilian market should investors be aware of?
I'd say one of the main trends we're seeing in the wider market is the increasing number of investors who are trading out of hours. So trading, primarily retail, trading things like, cryptocurrencies. So for this reason, B3 is looking at extended trading hours to capture some of this flow and attract more retail traders to the regulated market, but also expand our trading hours for the existing investors that we have, including the non-resident investors, we call them, the international players. So we do aim to reach the 23.5 international benchmark, but we're doing it in staged expansion, starting with extended hours for the mini Ibovespa contract that I mentioned at the beginning. And we're also studying the possibility of early trading hours to capture some of the European and Asian investors, considering the time differences there. So that's certainly one trend that we're seeing. And I would say linked to that, we're also seeing a trend towards more retail-oriented or retail-accessible products. So we launched our weekly options, for example, back in this past January, which have been very successful among retailers. They account for a large amount of the market share at the moment. And we're also we recently received regulatory approval for our Bitcoin futures contract. So we hope to launch that in May of this year. And we already have over a dozen crypto ETFs. And again, those are products that are very popular among retail investors. And then I think maybe a final point would be increasing our availability of international instruments to help diversify the exposure for local investors. So B3 sort of positions itself as a hub in LATAM for international indices. We have already S&P, DAX and Euro stocks, Nikkei, Hang Seng, amongst others, and plan to add more to that list. And we also have BDRs, so the Brazilian Depository Receipts, which are on securities issued abroad, such as in the States and in Europe. So I would say that's maybe a snapshot on some of the trends that we're seeing from the exchange side.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Andre, from your perspective, are there any other trends that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I guess it's important for foreigners to know that foreigners are still growing its participation here. It's a competitive landscape for some products more than others, but it's a welcoming thing. So we're still growing on many areas here. There are big technology changes going on as well on B3 Exchange. They've been investing a lot on many different things and trying to make the race to the matching engine every time shorter. So there are improvements on that area as well, like the binary protocol that they've been promoting. There are many things that has been changing here locally, and keeping track of all this and keeping the customers informed is sometimes a little challenge but that's what the whole thing is prepared for here in Brazil. Either B3 ourselves, everybody is advertising all this in a fashionably manner, so everybody's comfortable with all the changes that are going on.
Thanks, Andre. David, any other market trends you'd like to share? Sorry, David, you're on mute.
Okay, yes, I hope you can hear me now. I just wanted to go back to what I said a minute ago about the infrastructure market. It really is growing at a significant rate. There's a lot of reasons for that. 5G implementation, which really began even before the pandemic, is the biggest factor, but also moving to cloud and streaming grew during the pandemic. And as a result, the competitiveness and the availability of the fiber market now is almost unrecognizable to even 5 years ago. I mean, I've been living here since 2011, and it's almost unrecognizable from what it was like then. And apart from anything else, there's major involvement from both local and international funds and venture capital outfits. There are now 2 well-defined and possibly a third on the way, national providers, in other words, who can provide connectivity in, from north to south and west as well, if you need it. So it's a very vibrant market, and that's great for BSO because BSO depends on fiber and footprint being data centers, which are also growing at something like recent research I saw that the data center market in Brazil is going to grow 50% in value from last year to, I think, 3 or 4 years from now. So it's a booming business, really, and that's great for us and our customers.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you very much, David. Andre, I've got another question for you. So what are the critical risk factors associated with investing in Brazil, and how can investors effectively mitigate them?
So, as we said before, it's a pre-trade risk market, right? And local regulators have full visibility on who's trading what. So that is one thing that you have to keep in mind, because then being fully aware of what the current trading rules are, what are your trading limits, and all that would be very key for your success, right? But that's very well managed locally, so that is not a problem. It's just a thing that you have to be aware of. Our sovereign bonds are solid. The CDS is not spiking, so I'd say that Brazil is relatively safe to invest in when compared to some other emerging markets as well. So I guess I mean, those are normally the risk factors that people look into. What is the country risk? What is the FX risk? How is risk managed in Brazil? So again, it seems to me that we're well positioned to do this all in a very good way. I guess you're on mute now, Virginia.
Hey, we all have to do it once on this call, surely. It wouldn't be a Zoom call without, but yes, sorry. So how's technology shaping the future investment in Brazil? And I'll start with you, Andre, and then we'll move on to David.
Okay, sure. Like I slightly pointed before, there are many changes, and there has been changes on the technological infrastructure at B3, and each time more demanding market data and infrastructure to process everything that's happening in Brazil. I mean, the growth that we've seen in Brazil over the past few years are remarkable, and that's mainly because of binary protocol is being implemented in Brazil. That is the biggest impact we're having. I mean, and all the HFTs that have been growing and helping us grow the market in terms of providing liquidity and performing all the different roles that they normally do, but they're also very demanding customers. So all the technological infra is coming along with all this. So it's a competitive landscape. Latency has been a thing. RTTs has kind of shrank about 40%. So it's this new protocol is about 40% faster than the regular fix that's still in place. So the whole ecosystem here is prepared for performing well. I guess that's the main thing about technology. I mean, if you look on the growth and all the FIA rankings and the well-positioned trading volumes and all that we've been showing along these years are a good reflex of the technology and how this helped the market grow recently.
Thank you, Andre. David, anything you want to add?
Yes, I mean, everything that Andre just described helps to bring the market here up to level with any other market in the world. And it's worth mentioning that there are a lot of technical companies down here that can actually assist with the entry, the technical aspects of beginning to trade on B3. Brazil has a long tradition actually of developers. And I saw a couple of days ago, there are 1 million developers in Latin America. It's about 1 in every 600 people. And a big chunk of those are Brazilian, and a lot of them actually work remotely for international companies. And going back to the infrastructure market, just to give you an idea of the growth here, Equinix announced plans at the end of last year to spend another $250 million in Brazil on data centers over the next 2 or 3 years, which will bring them up to 6 data centers just in Sao Paulo. And Sao Paulo is the 5th fastest growing market in terms of data infrastructure in the world. And it's actually coming from behind as well. So its current compound rate is larger than probably 1 through 4. And it's good quality infrastructure. Another surprising thing I saw at the end of the last year, Ookla, the people who speed test application, they did a comprehensive survey of 5G speeds around the world, and Brazil came in at 5th. So access over 5G networks in Brazil was only slower than, I think it was Korea, Malaysia, UAE, and Qatar. So that's just an indication it's not just, the scope and the variety and the competition. It's actually good quality service as well. It's quite exciting to work with it.
And that brings us quite well into the next question with regards to connecting to B3. So what technologies, emerging technologies, should investors be aware of? Tony, can you speak to that one, please?
Yeah, sure, Virginia. So obviously there are a number of emerging technologies in the telco space, and whilst it's not an exhaustive list, some of the ones that I'm obviously familiar with are fiber optic innovations. So, we've obviously had hollow core fiber recently deployed, not just within the internal data center space, but externally as well. And we're seeing some significant improvements around latency, but there are other fiber optic innovations in the pipeline as well that go hand in hand with that. Microwave and millimeter wave technology, whilst again not necessarily a new technology. In fact, it's quite old. But what we're seeing is a wider coverage of microwave, millimeter wave, and RF technology in general across areas such as South America, and that's having an impact in building hybrid solutions where we are combining fixed line fiber with some form of radio frequency technology. And then at the core, there's the terabit networking. So what we're seeing now is much larger bandwidths within the core that allow for obviously greater degree of data transference, but actually at a higher speed within the core. And then there's things like field programmable gateway arrays, or FPGAs, as they're known, silicon phonetics, that's reducing the optical to electrical conversion rate. Again, all of these are low latency or save around the low latency space. Edge computing, that's the ability to process the data source at the edge and without having to take it back into the core, again, speeding up latency. And then things that are further down the line, like quantum networking and AI, which clearly will have a significant impact over the coming years. And whilst I could see all of the above impacting not just the B3 environment, but the whole low latency environment over the coming years, months and years. So yeah, lots of interesting, exciting stuff. Not an exhaustive list, but clearly, you know, it's a moving feast and one that we've got to keep ahead of and certainly abreast of.
Thank you very much, Tony. So that actually summarizes the questions that we have for the panel. We did have a couple of Q&A questions that were asked prior to the call, so through the registration. So I'm going to go through those. They will touch on topics that we've already spoken about, but I think it's important that we answer the questions. And I think that will come to time. So if anyone does want to submit any questions, do feel free, that we can always take them offline and email you back. But I'll go through these questions. So when will B3 support binary order placement? The new system already supports binary market data and P3, but when will we be able to submit orders via simple binary code, SBE, to the exchange instead of fix? Olivia, could you please answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So as of last Monday, this past Monday, we now have SBE simple binary encoding for both market data and order entry running across all markets. Market data went live over last summer, and order entry has been done in a staged process. And the final wave was on Monday. As Andre mentioned, I think earlier, it is in parallel to fix fast. So firms that aren't latency sensitive can continue to connect via fix fast. At the moment, we don't have plans to decommission the fixed protocol. Of course, never say never, but at the moment that we don't have definitive plans. And I guess moving forward, we're working on streamlining this, optimizing this, improving transparency, and we're also looking in terms of what's next at the micro market infrastructure level.
Thank you very much, Olivia. And then the next question is, could the panel provide the audience an update on advancements of crypto in Brazil? For B3 has physically backed ETFs listed. What does both B3 and the panel think of the recent approved US ETFs and the record inflows of investor monies? Let's start with you, Claudio, on that one.
Well, it's a nice question, because I would say we recently have like the Bitcoin hitting records, right? And this has, I was actually checking the volumes on the AUM of the ETFs listed at B3, and they are actually multiplying, pumping up extremely in these first 2 months of the year, like being almost 4 times bigger than the average of the last year. In terms of AUM, ETFs is nearing $800 million, what is quite meaningful. The movement from US, in my opinion, is very positive, because it just supports bringing the Bitcoin or the crypto actually from a kind of OTC environment to a regulated environment. So, and when you have an ETF being traded and being approved by a regulator, this the first view that I have is it gives more credentials to the Brazilian regulator that approved the ETF for crypto years ago. And what we are looking at is to go even further, to have a futures on crypto in the exchange. Very probably are going to be launching them end of May. Hopefully, we are going to have some news that we are going to be growing our suite of crypto products in Brazil. But the big message is bringing something that is like unregulated or in OTC market to a regulated. I think that's positive.
Thank you, Claudio. And David, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Virginia. Probably a couple of things worth adding. The central bank, ECB, just very recently published their regulation priorities for 2024. And number one on the list, as far as I could see, was regulation for the use of crypto in FX and international capital transactions. So it probably because of all the things that have happened elsewhere, particularly in the US over the last year or so, it's become much more front and center for the regulators here. And actually number 3 on that priority list was regulation for tokenization. And tokenization is seen here as having a very big future because apart from being able to democratize the market, you can make it much easier for retail investors to invest on a smaller unit scale. It also has other effects, such as making it easier for small companies to raise capital where ordinarily they would not be able to afford the fees. There's certain minimal value for these things when done traditionally. And of course, the central bank has also been trialing its own CBDC, which is called Drex, quite heavily trialing going on. They have talked about it having a limited rollout still in 2024, although I think that might be a bit optimistic. And I think from the point of view of financial markets, these things are interesting for cross-border payments, for example. That's as much interest here in Brazil as it is in other markets as well. And just to add something on the ETF discussion, the BlackRock iShares BTC fund, which was nominally the first to be approved in the US, just started trading last Friday in Brazil as a BDR, Brazilian Depository Receipt. You have to be a qualified investor, but it's already available in Brazil. So quite possible some of the other bigger spot Bitcoin ETFs will become available to trade here in the local currency as well.
That's great. Thank you so much, David. And that's all we've got time for today. So again, if you do want to contact us, please do send an email at hello@bso.co. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you very much to our panel for taking part. Really appreciate it. I hope everyone's got away with a bit of new information there. And thank you very much. I'll be closing this call and the recording will be available to everyone after the call.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.